I feel like in worship ministry, oftentimes a lot of the issues that we see or come across or hear of, whatever it may be, are due to a lack of boundaries. Not to put it all on the individual, but sometimes I really do think that we don't guard ourselves in moments, and then we end up blaming it on others. The ministry, boss, whoever it may be. How do you see that?
I don't understand.
Are you about to cry?
Yeah. Can you see the toothpaste stain on his shirt?
I don't have a toothpaste stain on my shirt. This is from my daughter. It's got to be.
You can? Yeah. Do you want to get rid of that or do you want to leave it?
Keep talking. I'll go change my shirt. Answer the question.
I know. It's a great question. I think you... And I say I think a lot too, which means sets it up that I may not know what I'm talking about.
You're like, I'm not actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's a transitionary word.
Yeah. You are correct. I do believe that we see a lot of and hear a lot of things that happen inside of worship ministries that, yes, we could point back to a lack of boundaries to that situation. But I do think it is personal. I think it's a personal boundary. I think it's a lack of also maybe supervision and accountability from leaders inside of the ministry that are outside of the worship ministry, that lead those who lead the worship ministry. I think those guys often could play the dumb card of, man, I didn't know that that was happening inside of that ministry. And I think that also would mean they don't have boundaries for themselves or accountability from whoever leads those individuals. So I agree, but I do think it's on a personal level because I don't know boundary-wise. I don't know, unless you're talking about systems and policies, boundaries for me is an automatic personal accountability of like, hey, that's outside of my boundary. As an example, a nonprofit, we're hosting a trip with a nonprofit I'm a part of that's with a bunch of LEOs, law enforcement officers, in December. And one of those officers that is on the trip is a female officer. And I met with the board yesterday and just said, hey, we need to put boundaries in place that this does not become our normal thing, because we cannot have female officers with male officers in the same house, or even with the ranch hands that'll be there, or any of the other males that are there.
Why?
Well, because it's just, for me personally, being in ministry for so long, it's just asking for a disaster that you'll put.
Oh, gotcha.
Because there's going to be alcohol involved, and there's going to be, these guys are on vacation for 4 days.
Sinners.
Yeah. So they're on vacation for 4 days. And so you get that feel-good vibe and that feel-good spirit, and you kind of lose the sense of morality. But, these guys we don't even know that these guys are Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't be a breeding ground for that kind of issue, especially when we're trying to help relationships in law enforcement. Gotcha. That's a boundary that we wouldn't have in place. So it would open up the doors for disaster down the road. So I just had that conversation yesterday with our team. So it's like, it's the same idea for a boundary inside of ministry. If you don't have those boundaries for you, then yeah, you will open the door for potential disaster, and nobody's perfect. So you will ultimately cave to a lack of lane and veer left or right.
Yeah, recently we released a video on YouTube talking about boundaries and really how to anchor ourselves in some truth as worship leaders, tech leaders. Something that, as I was recording that video, my encouragement to folks was, hey, don't always, a very easy example we see in ministry is like just the temptation to always say yes to, right? Yes to all the last minute things. And you and I have both been there where there's that person in the ministry that establishes a boundary and says like, oh, I can't do that. Like I can't set up that last minute funeral in this one room. And they're always seen as like the stick in the mud, like, oh, John, just grumpy, doesn't understand the impact of the ministry. And I used to always kind of roll that way. And now I'm realizing more and more, I think it's okay for John to say, hey, I can't do that last minute thing that you asked me. What are your thoughts on that? Because we always have this idea that like impact trumps process. So like if there's impact that we see, then let's just throw the process out the window. But then it almost creates an environment where it's impossible to have boundaries, right?
With those events specifically, setting aside a funeral or a memorial, because those are hard to plan. Those happen typically, that would be considered a last minute thing. A death is not, that's typically last minute. That's not planned is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So setting aside a memorial or a funeral, weddings that happen at churches, conferences that happen at churches, if a production person or worship person feels like I need to have this conversation, then that would be a system issue that is probably coming from those who make those decisions, because Easter comes at the same time of the year every year, and so does Christmas. We know that fall is a big return back to school, so it's a big return back to church. We know that. So there's a lack of system that protects the boundaries of volunteers and staff. I like that approach because I automatically went to like personal health and spiritual health for boundaries. You're actually coming from the approach in this example from availability, which I like.
Well, it's like one of the biggest tensions.
Yeah, because that's going to strike a
ministry.
chord for sure. So, especially with this community, so conversations need to be had. Can we look at planning out the next 6 months? I don't need to know what you're preaching on. I don't need to know set lists. I don't need to know any of that. But can we at least sit down and talk about the next 6 months of what events we think is coming up? We know January, February could be a down month. We know March and April is going to pick back up for Easter. We know then we got late spring into summer. Summer attendance is going to dip. So what does our summer look like? What do you want us to do? Do you want us to put gas on the pedal, or do you want us to pull off with attendance? Do you want any events during the summer? Do you want a baptism event during the summer? Start asking those questions, and we go back into the fall. Fall's a kick back up for school, so we know attendance is going to climb. Is that a back to the movie series? Is that a back to school series? How do you start planning? Okay, so if attendance is high in the fall, is that when we want to do a marriage conference because we got a bunch of people, so start.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying, but it's like all of that planning for some people, for a lot of people, I think is like, yeah, that'd be cool if we planned around here. But the reality is like somebody is listening right now who this afternoon is going to be asked to stay till 7 p.m. tonight, and they weren't planning for that. Personally.
That's their fault.
That's that person's fault?
Yeah, 100%.
How do you see it that way? Because I just think like in technical ministry...
Because they're not having conversations. Because first of all, they're frustrated. So that's their fault. Second of all, they are not having conversations with their team that I just said. What event's going to happen tonight at 7 o'clock? And then the question I would have as a employee in that situation is, then what does my schedule look like tomorrow? What time do you want me to come in tomorrow? Well, you need to be here at 9. That's when church. That's my fault if I agree to that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we agree on this. Are you saying it's their fault that they were asked last minute to do something that's changing their schedule and maybe removing a boundary?
No, I don't. I think it's their fault when they continue on doing it.
When they say yes.
When they say yes and they continue to do it.
Yep.
When it's the normal thing to do to stay after hours on a last minute event till 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night, different. Most Wednesday nights are student ministries, but on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night. So you had me here. I mean, I used to work at a church, and here's what my schedule looked like. When I was the next gen worship pastor, I was starting on a Monday. I was a part of the program Celebrate Recovery, so I didn't necessarily have to be there, but I had to make sure that it was staffed with band.
Yeah,
and every now and then I think I was asked to be there once or twice a month. So Monday night CR, Tuesday night we had a development process. I had to be there Tuesday night. Wednesday night we had student ministry, and I was next gen worship pastor. I had to be there on Wednesday nights. Thursday, I was a part of a launch program that we were trying to figure out if we wanted to launch some like ministry thing. Friday, I was off. Saturday, I had to be at church in the morning for a 4 o'clock service, so I had to be there around noon. Sunday morning, I led at the broadcast campus, so Sunday morning church, and then Sunday night we had a service at University of Tennessee college campus. That was my weekly schedule. That's my fault.
Yeah.
That's my fault. And it caused destruction at my house. It caused me to question if I wanted to be in ministry because I just said yes to all of it.
Yeah.
There was no, even if my former supervisors are listening, they're probably going to go, that was his schedule.
Yeah.
Like we knew we had all this going on, but I didn't think Dylan was the one doing it all.
Yeah. So
that's what I mean by that. I think that's my fault. I think I allowed that to happen.
So I got a story that I want to share, and I'd love your feedback on maybe what I should have done in the situation. I got a lot of thoughts, but I'm reminded of a time. This was probably 13, 14 years ago. I was working in ministry at a large multi-site church. We did events really big around the holidays, and Christmas particularly one year, we brought in somebody to come and do all the production, rented a bunch of gear. It was a whole thing. We had like 15 something services. But because of the cost of the rental, we had to be there. I think I left at 5 a.m. on Christmas morning. Okay. So we're there through Christmas. Our last Christmas service is at like, I think 11 p.m. or 10 p.m.
It was totally worth it though.
And it was like, we need to get this gear out tonight or else we're going to be billed for extended rental, so on and so forth. Yeah. Which, whatever, we can go, they shouldn't have cheaped out, whatever. I'm not get into that. But culturally, like, it's almost kind of like you're in that situation with, we were all my friends, like my boys in tech, and like, it was like kind of a close-knit, I've never been in the military, but I'd imagine it kind of feels like that. Like, yeah, we're doing this thing and it sucks, but we're in it together, So it's like, nobody's really saying like, hey, this isn't cool. Like, we shouldn't be doing this. We should be at home on Christmas morning, not showing up at 5 a.m. completely spent, and so on and so forth. Now, at that time, I think I wore it as like a badge of honor, but then maybe a week later, I'm like, I cannot believe we had to do that. But again, if I spoke up, I may have lost my job, or I may have been told I wasn't being obedient or faithful to ministry. What should I have done?
It's easy to get cynical too. And let's just address, or I'll address for myself on this particular podcast. I get cynical pretty quickly, and I don't want to be that way. I want to hold that off a little bit. In a scenario like that, my mind automatically goes to that. Just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
5 a.m. But I've done the same thing almost. I, worked at a church in the West Coast, and all my family lived in the East Coast.
Yeah.
And my family was in the East Coast. And so our last Christmas Eve service ended at, 9 p.m. or something. So it's like I can spend Christmas Day by myself, or I can hop on a red eye and get to the East Coast. And that's exactly what I did. I get on a flight at 11 o'clock. It was Central Time Zone, so that's not 3 hours, it's only 2 hours. And there's no airport where my family was at the time because they were out in the middle of East Texas ranch, so I had to fly into Dallas. I remember landing in Dallas at 4 a.m. or something. Got in a vehicle and drove to East Texas 2 hours away.
But that was your choice.
It was my choice. Well, okay, so you're proving my point. Yeah. And I just was going to spin that right back to you and say, but at the end of the day, that's what I decided to do. I didn't go to my supervisors and say, do I need to be here through the next 3 or 4 services, or can I've been a part of the whole process. Like, I developed it, I produced it, we created it as a team, we have staffing. I'm not doing anything, I'm not experience directing, I'm not show calling. All the positions are filled, everyone's healthy. It's the 115th service we've done. Am I good? I didn't have that conversation.
Yeah.
And so I decided to stay.
Yeah, it's your job too. Like it's Christmas Eve, it's part of your job.
And that's a unique position because I was over the program.
Yeah.
So if you're like, well, I can't leave because I'm front of house, or I can't leave because I'm a guitar player, like that's not an
Yeah.
option, right? So I get that, but the question was for you is what should I have done?
Because there's somebody in that. There, maybe it's not apples to apples, but there's somebody who's faced with something
Yeah,
similar
100%.
to that scenario. What do they do?
As a staff member or as a volunteer?
Staff member and volunteer. It doesn't really matter to me. I think how you go about it maybe is a little different.
If the scenario is we have to have this back on a truck by 5 a.m. on December 25th, or it's going to be an extra week rental, because that's the way rentals work, then yeah, we probably cut too many budget corners, and we probably didn't have enough conversations with the vendor. But volunteer doesn't know that, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
So as a staff member, I would definitely have questions with those who made decisions on this vendor, on this gear rental, of, hey, is there no other options? I see on the text schedule here that it says loadout starts at 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the case, I may not be getting home until like 3 or 4 in the morning on Christmas Eve if I live local. Is there no other options for vendors? Are you sure we can't ask the vendor for a December 26th loadout or 27th loadout and get it back into their warehouse by the 27th? Can we at a place as a church that we can afford the extra 2 day? Maybe they'll cut us a deal. There's definitely plenty of vendors out there. So but from a volunteer standpoint, who doesn't know those, more than likely doesn't know that, you're going to tell me I'm going to be home at 5 a.m. as a volunteer on Christmas morning?
Yeah. So obviously, as a volunteer, they have the ability to
not this volunteer.
Yeah, like they have. Because here's the thing: a lot of that is not planned. It's like get to sound check on Christmas Eve, and it's like, hey, by the way, guys, it's gonna be a late night. That's how these things roll. Like people, the reason you stay there till 5 a.m. on Christmas morning, it's not a premeditated like 2-week planning. Yeah, that's a good idea. What happened was a leader fell short, and the people who make that decision are not even there. They're not even in the room at that point in time. At 5 a.m. on Christmas morning. All that to say, when we talk about boundaries, okay, so the purpose of a boundary is I'm not going over that line, right? That's a boundary. It's like, okay, this is where I don't compromise. So sometimes we encourage people like, oh, just stay through it. It's going to suck, but like have the conversation after. Like, hey, that wasn't right. So on and so forth. But it's like, that's just a willingness to pursue a hard discussion. It's not a boundary. Because the boundary would have been, yeah, no, I'm not staying till 5 a.m. And if you want to fire me over that, then fire me.
Yeah. But I agree with what you're saying. To add to that, then individuals need to, after listening to this, they need to go home and sit down with their spouse, or if you don't have that, just figure it out on your own.
Figure it out on your own.
What are my boundaries?
Yeah.
We do an event every year, and load in for that event is December 26th. Thank God for me, it's local.
Yeah.
Sort of local. It's in Pigeon Forge.
Yeah.
So I'm asking our key positions to potentially travel on December 25th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking on December 26th, the day after Christmas, for, if you're not there on the 25th, that's fine, obviously. But if you need to be there on the 26th, you fly in super early on the 26th or drive in. If you can't be on the 26th, I need you to at least travel on 26th to be there for 27th. That is not an option. If you're on this team for this event, you have to honor that request.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's several people who have boundaries in place that say, that's not an option for me and my family. We take this season off.
Yeah.
These guys are what I would consider veterans in the production industry that all come from churches, are still in churches. They're all pretty wise, and they're saying to me, that's not an option. We will not be there on the 26th of December.
Yeah.
We'll be there on 28th or 29th.
Okay, you're talking about people working in the professional industry. But like, I want to make sure it's very practical for somebody who right now, I think you're right. Like, we need to establish boundaries. If we don't have boundaries, then we don't know what conversations we need to have or what things we need to say no to. So boundaries need to happen. You saying, okay, go and figure it out. How would you suggest somebody actually establish what their boundaries are? We're almost creating a value system, right? Like what if it's a conversation with their spouse, they go to a counselor, somebody who they respect, a mentor. How does somebody establish boundaries? Because some people like to work. Some people like to stay up late. Some people like those things, so on and so forth. What's the purpose of the boundary? How do they establish it?
The purpose, I can only speak for myself. The purpose for me would be health, family, my kids. If I'm consistently staying inside of a system that forces my hand to be there a lot on nights, be there a lot on weekends, be at last minute events, my mind would automatically go to, I need to have a conversation with my supervisor first. Hey, is this the way we're going to continue on? Here's some concerns I may have. Get your supervisor's thought on it, and then maybe take that home and have a boundaries conversation with your wife or your husband and say, hey, I see this, babe. I'm having this conversation right now with so-and-so, and we're gonna try to fix it to make sure that we are protecting our family time and protecting our evenings and our dinner time and sports and whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, setting the boundary obviously has to happen before you can know if a boundary has been crossed, for sure. But more often than not, I hear people saying, I have boundaries now, but they continuously get crossed, or I'm being pushed over them constantly. Go have a conversation, which I think is important if you're continuously pushed outside of your values, how you lead your home, your family, so on and so forth. What do? You've had the conversation with leadership. Leadership might say, yeah, this might not be the right place for you. Or they say, oh, absolutely, we never want anybody. More often than not, what I hear from folks is leadership's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, we don't want you to be in that situation. We don't want you to have to compromise your values in that way. But then it doesn't change, right? Like, the same things continue to happen. What do? Do you just leave? Do they just leave? Do they try to create the change they want to see? Like, how? That's a question I get very often.
I don't think leaving's I wouldn't go straight to just leaving. I think you should have teams in place. That's very practical. Okay, how we build teams, a different podcast. Why are we talking about this? I'm getting frustrated.
Because it's one of the
it's
one of the number one threats to ministry for people. Like,
but
people continue to
unless
burn
we look at
themselves
the
out.
person watching this, listen to it, and say, figure it out. Be a leader for the first time in your life. It's not going to get us anywhere. I just don't think it's going to. That's my opinion.
I think that people need to understand that it is up to them. It is up to them. So you're right.
Yep.
They need to understand this is any big problem in your life is up to you to solve.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the big problem is that you're being asked to stay till 7 p.m., that's what I was going back to earlier, is like, it's happening. They're being asked, but they're going, you just have to have some empathy, Dylan. Like, they want the ministry to succeed. They don't want the event to not happen because of their personal boundary. They are tugged in that, like, well, I'm the only person here. Okay, yeah, you and I could say, well, you don't have a team. You shouldn't be the only person here, yada, yada, yada. There's so many reasons why you're in this position. We can talk about how to avoid that. But at the end of the day, they're still forced to make a decision about the thing that is right in front of them right now. They're listening to this podcast in the morning. This afternoon, they're going to be put in a situation. Hey, I know we had that conversation a couple weeks ago.
What is that situation they're being put into? What is it? Give me an example.
like I said earlier, they're being asked, hey, last minute so-and-so has a funeral. They were going to have it at this other venue, but it fell through. And so we want to care for them as a church, and we need to actually have this funeral now for them. It's last minute. We just found about it. I know it goes outside of all of our processes, everything we talked about. Can you stay and make it happen?
With the exception of memorials and funerals.
You're like, I have a soft spot for memorials and funerals.
Well, I'm
We
just
can pick
saying, because they're
event.
last minute. Like, as a church, that's what people go to the church when they're broken.
Well, but last minute, that example works because it's literally same day. Most people are not planning funerals same day.
Right.
So
I 16 years full-time ministry, from church planning to the largest churches in the country. Never had anyone call me on a Friday and say we have a funeral tonight. Never.
Sure.
So if that's happening at your church, I want to pick your brain on that. They die that morning.
Pick another scenario then. I'm just saying that's
what I'm saying. So
stuff
what
happens.
give me a real, not just you, anybody, give me an example, a real-time example where someone has to stay late at church last minute.
I think, okay, youth ministry on Wednesday nights.
I have some
They
as
fall,
well.
like people fall through.
Yes,
That's
where I was
can't
going.
stay.
People schedule, don't show up, or they
don't
can't.
show up. Okay, now I'm for. But again, that's a little bit more within the control, because it's like, hey, if you're responsible for scheduling those positions, you're responsible for those teams, leading those teams, and then the team falls through. Then yeah, you're gonna have to pinch hit and like step in and make that happen. And I think every day of the week, like that's a part of you just being a leader. Being a leader is bearing the burdens nobody wants to bear. But if it is something outside of your realm of responsibility, and your executive pastor or your pastor, somebody's coming to you and saying, I need you to step into this thing that is really outside of your responsibility. There are many examples. I mean, what examples can you think of that? I feel like I'm constantly hearing people say, I'm asked to do something that is.
Well, I was going to say the
responsibility.
scheduling thing's real. Like, that's a real thing. You schedule an audio engineer, your background's audio, your audio engineer doesn't show up, so you feel the responsibility to fulfill that position. That would be a last minute thing.
Yeah, but I don't think that I think in that situation, you're like, well, my boundary is that I need to be at home eating with my family. I'm like, dude, no. Like, that's your job to make sure that thing got done. And whether or not it's your volunteer's fault, ultimately it rises and falls on your leadership.
100%.
Step up, go do that thing.
The back half of that is, if that's the normal thing, then we have an issue in your volunteers and your culture and your scheduling. Follow up. You can't rely on people. You got to figure that out. That would be the system on the back half of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. So, any other examples that you would know where people are being asked last minute to stay at church, just to protect my boundary? I can't do that. Well, what is that? So we've talked about scheduling, memorials and funerals, or schedule mishaps, and then memorials and funerals. What are some other examples?
Worship pastor, and we just got some new guitars in or gear in, and we want to stay late and have like a extra rehearsal. Hey, tech guy, can you stay and help us make that happen? Maybe it's a day in advance. Maybe it's not same day, but it's still like, oh, can we do it maybe at a different time? Nope, it's got to be 6 p.m. because John doesn't get off work till 6.
So volunteers are involved.
Sure. Yeah. Volunteers
that matters,
are involved.
because if it's all staff, it's like we can do that at 9 a.m. the next morning.
See,
but if it's volunteers,
this is where you and I might not see it eye to eye. Like, I just think sometimes we get into all these caveats. Well, okay, volunteer, impact over here, so on and so forth. Like, we get into this mode, and I've heard it over and over and over again, like impact trumps process. Well, really what that means is you as the leader at any given moment can decide that God's plans are greater than any sort of conversation, any sort of boundary, any sort of process that has been put in place. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't necessarily see it. I think a boundary is a boundary. So if it's, I work till 5 on weeknights. And I mean, I saw this when I got outside of the church vocationally. Like, if there was ever an ask to stay after work late, it was like usually to like feed me or to have like a team camaraderie or bonding or whatever. But like it was very well planned, very much so like, hey, would you please consider this? Right? I don't think that it should be any different in ministry. When
You
we're
talking
working
about
in
between a
ministry.
staff and volunteer?
I think for staff or volunteer.
The reason why I asked staff versus volunteers is because you said it 6 p.m. Staff or volunteer gets off at 5, so that would make sense. We need to figure out a 6 p.m. start time with our volunteers. And I realize that it's rare for churches to have full staff in this department, but the churches that do have full staff,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that can definitely wait till the next morning.
Yeah.
To get together and tinker around with our new gear. That can definitely wait.
Yeah.
That's not, to me, that would be a boundary. That is not worth me missing dinner time with my family to tinker with gear, to play with our new stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if we're a volunteer culture, then I would push towards, hey, we know this delivery date's coming in 5 days, 4 days. Is everybody good? Can we do a late night? I'll bring in some food. It's fun, it's exciting. Because that example is a good example because most of us would be excited about that. Like, we got a bunch of new gear. Volunteers would be excited about that. Make it a thing. Your 5-year-old son at home does not care about that, though.
Yeah.
So
totally.
how do you make sure he's good and he understands dad's at church playing with new gear?
Yeah, and I should also just hit the other side of this for a second too. Like if you're working in ministry and your expectation is that you are going to be home by 5 every day, I'd probably say go get a different job.
Well, it's even rare in most jobs to be home by 5 every day.
Yeah, sure.
If you love what you do, it's going to be hard to leave.
I'm just saying, like, there's midweek ministries, things like you're going to have an abnormal schedule. You're going to maybe start at 11 on Wednesdays and go home at 7 on Wednesdays, and that's your Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But like we're talking about, and before you ever walk into that job, you should know like, oh, that's what I'm signing up for. So like my boundary is going to be that, yeah, Wednesday I come in late, but I also stay late, so on and so forth. So it's not apples to apples. It's not like, well, in corporate America, people work 9 to 5, so we should be doing that in the church as well. It doesn't fully work that way. I think the whole point of this discussion, though, is to not make light of boundaries and not we really just want to call out that boundaries are okay and healthy in the church. And if you don't have boundaries, establish the boundaries, right? Establish what they are. Ideally, have them before you ever work somewhere, and communicate that on the forefront so you don't have to have hard conversations later. But then actually stay true to your boundaries. Don't have it be I never actually abide by these boundaries, but I just tell people when they got crossed. Because you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That happens very often.
Yeah, you got to build that wall.
Build that wall.
Build that wall around your...
It leads to negative sentiment. Again, people, they never want to say no. They just say yes and then complain later.
Yeah.
Go and say, I didn't like that I was asked to do that. Okay, well, why didn't you say no in the first place?
Some people may not feel like they can say no.
Yep.
Because they will get their hand slapped. It'll be their third strike. And that's when we talk about, man, are we going to lose our job over this?
Yeah.
If I say no to one more thing, there's probably a lot of people that feel that way. Even listen to this. Like I only have one more no because I feel that pressure. You could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Your supervisor may not have any idea you feel that way if you're not having those conversations.
Yeah.
That's why I always lean back on when it comes to boundaries. It's great to have conversations with your family and just kind of set those together as a couple so that your spouse knows, hey, I work 11 to 7 on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
She knows that. But your supervisor also has to be the one that agrees to that. They're the ones that are paying you. You do get paid every 2 weeks from this organization, and mm-hmm. you did say yes to a job, which is ministry, mm-hmm. which we all know. There's no such thing as 9 to 5 ministry job. There are actually. I say that out loud.
You're like, actually, wait, there are.
There are, but in our space, there's just not.
Yeah,
there's not. And so when you say yes to a production, worship, creative role inside of a church, you have to know, like, That 9 to 5 just does not exist in your world.
Yeah.
I would also ask the question. I would love to talk to a church supervisor, creative production worship that does have the expectation that you will be at every event and you will be here at 9:00 in the morning every morning. It's probably safe to say that doesn't exist, but we feel like it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's the lack of conversation. I think.
Lack of conversation for sure. Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand the hours that go into worship and tech ministry, and they never will, and that's okay. That's why it's our job to communicate, and so on and so forth. So,
and you said it earlier too, but a lot of us just love to be at church.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the biggest things I miss about you talking about being on team earlier. One of the biggest things I miss about being inside the church full time vocationally is I miss being on a team. I missed some of those late nights. I miss figuring out how we do in this transition with a group full of volunteers. Like I do miss that.
Yeah.
So some of us don't have that addicted feeling, but we do like being at church and working.
Well, and I just to call that out a minute too, like frankly, when I hear you say that, because I've been there as well, oftentimes that's unhealth too.
Yeah.
Like, we want to stay there late at night. We want to turn and burn but we know the end of that story.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always work out super well.
Mm-hmm.
So we also just have to consider, if you're listening, you're like, yeah, guys, it's not me. Like, I love being there. I love staying late. I love it. Okay, but who are you leading? Because they might not.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might be leading them into that, and they really respect you. They look up to you, and they're like, well, this is what Mike does, so like I'm going to do this too.
Yeah.
And
Real-time example for me, because that hit home for me, is when I worked at a church, I mean, I was gone every night till like late.
Yeah.
Late nights.
Yeah.
And creative meetings or hangs.
Yeah.
And I mean, I came home one day and my wife was like, hey, and I just had Jet. She's now 11. So she was just born. You will come home and I will be gone. That was the conversation. I had zero boundaries, but was 100% in fear of my position. That's just being real. So, I mean, that does exist.
Mm-hmm.
And there were conversations being had, and it didn't matter. So I've lived in that real-time scenario. But now as I've gotten a little bit older and a little bit wiser, I still don't stray from the fact that was still my fault.
Yeah. Because
I allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
I had lack of boundaries. My wife was asking me to put boundaries in place. I was in fear for my job. Ultimately, I left because of that. And everything's okay. Yeah. Everything's okay.
Yeah, it's good, man. We live and we learn.
Yes,
and then
we do.
We tell about it. Hey, if you've made it this long, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you listening in this conversation around boundaries and how we ultimately become better leaders, better husbands, better spouses, wives, so on and so forth. And if you are new to the MxU podcast, we talk about this stuff weekly, everything around worship and tech leadership. We also have a training platform. That's really what we do here at MxU, is help leaders train and equip their volunteers to achieve excellence in worship and tech ministry. Pretty turnkey system, planning center integration, automated training courses, thousands of videos that are specifically made for church worship and tech ministries. If you want to learn more about it, you can head to getmxu.com. And thanks for joining us. Please join us next time on the MxU podcast.